Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira just leaked on the UFC Brazil account. Islam Makhachev is publicly calling out Dana White for his loss of interest in the UFC. And even Volkanovski's team says that they were blindsided by the Diego Lopes rematch happening in February. I need someone to explain to me what the fuck is going on with the UFC, because right now it seems like they have no idea what they're doing, and they're about to go into a $1.1 billion yearly deal with Paramount Plus. It's a bad look, along with the betting scandal that we just had recently. In this video, we're going to talk about this leak and everything else that I just mentioned. My name is Wyatt. Welcome to Fight Society. Okay, so first off, Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway 2 for the UFC BMF belt leaked today on the UFC Brazil account, saying that the fight was going to be happening at UFC 324. Now, that is the card that has Gaethje versus Pimblett and Harrison versus Nunes, along with a bunch of other big fights on it as well. This got deleted very, very fast. This is a sick fight, and it was actually rumored to be the main event for UFC 324 about a month ago, where it seemed like the first Paramount Plus card was going to be for the BMF belt, which fans have mixed reactions to this belt, regardless of how sick the fight is. This got taken down very, very quickly. And this is the same official UFC Brazil account that also leaked Oliveira versus Topuria at UFC 317 before Dana White officially announced it as well. Now, is it going to actually happen at 324? I'm kind of skeptical because it is an absolutely stacked card already, considering that pay-per-views are no more. If the UFC wants to start the Paramount Plus deal with a huge splash of a card and they couldn't get Topuria on it, it makes sense that they would put this fight as well on the card to kind of help figure out the lightweight division a little bit more than they already have been. But where I'm actually upset about this is because the UFC is so fucking sloppy with their promotion, where we have Oliveira Topuria get leaked. We have this get leaked. We have Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes getting leaked as the main event frontrunner for UFC 324. And this is the biggest company in the sport. This is the biggest company in combat sports. And their promotional tactics are basically as sloppy as like a group project in high school that nobody gave a fuck about. So is Dana White losing control of the promotion, or is he just losing interest? Because we have Islam Makhachev, the now welterweight champion, complaining about Dana White's interest. This right here from MMA Scanlon says, Islam Makhachev holds a very intriguing view on UFC president Dana White and his current commitment to the UFC. In the UFC, I think they started working on promoting fights less, Makhachev said. In the UFC before, they would make a star out of anyone. They did it themselves, promoted fighters, and paid a lot of attention to it. But now, somehow, the UFC itself has lost interest. Dana is also already a big guy. Other things. He's involved in too many other things. And if the UFC wants, they can make any fight loud. They probably need to want it. Dana needs to return to his roots, how he started, how he created all this. A person also loses motivation with so much time he's been at the top. And I know he's already slowly finding people who will replace him. And that's talking about Hunter Campbell. And this was Islam Makhachev being interviewed by Udar Kanal. Now, the UFC is so bad at promotion these days, where this is what we get. Dana White leaking things, UFC Brazil accidentally leaking things. And this is what we used to get as promotion for the UFC announcements, was full-on cinematic trailers that the fighters helped film. I mean, this is literally in front of the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, where they have an actual filmed movie crew come out and film this incredible announcement for Aldo versus McGregor. But then you have Dana White these days just going Instagram live, going live from his PSP, going live from a fucking Nintendo DS to announce the fights that'll shape the Paramount Plus deal, the fights that'll shape what 2026 looks like for the company. And when you also include the fact that the UFC slapped this card together because Topuria was supposed to be on it, then they tried to slide Harrison versus Nunes past us as the main event originally. And they were even going to ask Alex Pereira to step in against Carlos Ulberg on like 7 weeks notice for this. It seems like these cards are just thrown together because the UFC is just so ungrateful for their fan base and just so willing to take advantage of their fan base where they're like, take 1.1 billion from Paramount. Everybody goes and signs up for it, adding another monthly expense to your fans' wallets in this economy. And of course, tickets for this are minimum $300-400. So most people can't even go to see the fight in person, but they're slapping the cards together. They're putting a lot of effort into the money side of it, where how much are they making, selling sponsorship deals, getting the streaming rights deal, but the actual delivering on the product side of the bargain, which is the UFC's side of the bargain, is delivering on the product. They're slapping it together the night before it's due, like I used to do with my homework. It's insane to me how the UFC seems so unprepared as we're about to go into a $7.7 billion streaming rights deal. And it's not just me noticing it or content creators noticing it or the fans. The fighters are noticing it too, because Arman Sarukian's talking about how they're setting stuff up and leaking it. You also have Volkanovski's team thinking that they're fighting somebody else at a different time. Now here we have them fighting somebody else that they didn't even know they were going to be fighting. That's the UFC just slapping things together. Same with this. They go, oh wait, Paramount Plus, the executives, they're not satisfied with the card we announced the other day. We got to add another big fight to it as well. And you even see Alexander Volkanovski reacting to his Lopez rematch right here. And he doesn't even seem excited. Like, this is just anti-promotion from the UFC.
There was a bit in it, a bit of work involved. Obviously, we all know that I wanted to fight earlier. I wanted, I thought it was going to be December. We thought, Lerone Murphy, December. I guess UFC, and they were waiting for Jean Silva and Lopez. Then they were saying Lopez, and we're like, obviously we're like, we just fought that guy. Is there more deserving people, whatnot? But everybody knows that I'll fight anyone, right? So whoever they put in front of me, I'll do. But then it was looking like it wasn't going to happen. But then it did happen, which was great. Again, I thought, it was a Mobzar deserving, Lerone Murphy. I thought they were the two guys. They're the guys I called out. UFC really won Lopez. At least everyone knows they're in for a treat.
Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members-only live streams, behind-the-scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video. So Volk didn't even know when he was fighting or who, which is wild to me, especially considering that this is his retirement fight. You have arguably the featherweight GOAT that is going to be retiring in February, and they can't even build the fight the right way. Dana just truly doesn't give a fuck about the UFC anymore. Now, it feels like we have a leaked fight like every week, and that main events are getting leaked left and right, whether that's the fighters or managers not keeping their mouth shut, or somebody that's in Dana White's inner circle that can't keep their mouth shut. But champions are saying, oh yeah, there was more guys more deserving. Arman Sarukian saying that he already knew that Ilya versus Paddy was the original plan for January. And of course, Ilya Topuria dealing with his divorce, not fighting in the first quarter of next year, which is why this fight came together. While Dana White is going to sell this as the best fight, the best, we put on the best fights possible, this isn't strategy. This isn't building hype. This is just pure laziness and disorganization. And you can't look at Dana White making an Instagram live announcement compared to what he used to do and say that Dana White hasn't gotten lazy, because he has. And now we'll bring it back all the way to the first point of this video. Holloway versus Oliveira, especially if it gets added to an already stacked card to open the Paramount Plus deal, this would be one of the best UFC cards of all time from a star power standpoint. They already fought once at UFC Fight Night 74 in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, where Charles Oliveira tore his esophagus or something like that. It says neck/shoulder injury. If you guys remember that fight, Charles Oliveira crumpled to the ground after getting punched in the neck by Holloway. So them running it back some years later, it is a vastly different fight, because Oliveira, that was featherweight weight missing quit in the middle of fights all the time, Charles Oliveira, versus now we have Charles Oliveira became champion, got knocked out by Ilia Topuria, bounced back very fast against Gamrot, and got a win. Oliveira is a different fighter, and so is Max Holloway, and it really wasn't even much of a fight the first time they fought. When it comes down to this fight, I actually think that Max Holloway is going to get submitted fairly early. I think it's going to be a war for about a round and a half. And like second round, Charles Oliveira is going to shoot in on a double, get to the body lock, go around the back, and end up getting a rear naked choke on Max Holloway. Or even just in a scramble, take his back, similar to what he did with Gamrot, similar to what he did with Justin Gaethje. What's crazy to think about is the inactivity of Ilia Topuria, because Ilia Topuria last fought in June, and Oliveira is going to have fought in June, October, and then January. And he's the one that got knocked out by Ilia Topuria. It's still going to be an amazing fight. But when you look at the UFC, they're throwing this together right here, and it's basically getting announced via a leak. We have this right here. But of course, Arman Tsarukyan is the one that's getting left out of this whole thing. The #1 contender in the UFC rankings, who beat Dan Hooker very dominantly, is getting left out of all of this, especially when you consider that Paddy versus Gaethje is an interim title fight. So they're going to fight the winner of Topuria, likely at the White House, which is in June. And then you're going to probably have the winner of Holloway Oliveira fight the winner of that fight. And then in the middle of all of this, you have McGregor coming back to fight Michael Chandler as well. And Conor McGregor is one win from a title shot at all times. Arman Tsarukyan is going to have to wait until probably mid-2027 to get a title shot and fight somebody like a BSD, just somebody in the meantime. Maybe we get Mauricio Huffy gets a couple wins, and that fight makes sense for Arman Tsarukyan. Somebody moving up the rankings, but Tsarukyan's the #1 contender. All of the top 5 guys except for him are booked. He's already fought Dan Hooker. He already fought Gamrot. Maybe he gets a Gamrot rematch at some point. But Tsarukyan, as much as I really, really dislike him, he's a whiny little bitch, posh boy, as Paddy Pimblett says, he is getting screwed here. I know he missed weight for UFC 311. People are saying that he missed weight for the Dan Hooker fight as well, and that there was some sort of fuckery on the scales. And now he's exposing that they were going to do Paddy versus Ilia in January. Now with Ilia's personal problems, they had to do an interim fight with Gaethje. Arman's getting fucked here, and he does deserve a title fight. And Justin Gaethje bullied them into a title fight. He's actually kind of lucky Ilia Topuria can't fight in January, or won't fight in January, because they were going to do Ilia versus Paddy, and that means the UFC would have been calling Justin Gaethje's bluff on retirement. I am going to go with Oliveira to win this fight. I'm going to go with Pimblett to win this fight and fight Topuria. Maybe Arman fights like a Max Holloway after he loses to Oliveira or something like that. So the UFC should have things more under wraps and more organized, especially when it comes to big title fights to open their streaming deal with Paramount. And Dana White's lack of interest in the company, especially when he's launching Zuffa Boxing. You know, he just did Canelo versus Crawford. He's got Power Slap. He's got UFC BJJ. They want to expand Contender Series. And then all the other things that Dana White is involved in, like being on the Meta board of directors. Dana doesn't give a fuck about the UFC. At this point, he should just be passing it off to Hunter Campbell or whoever else. And I'm worried about how unorganized and low effort Dana White is going to be with this Paramount Plus deal, because this should be a golden age in MMA. So let me know in the comments down below, is the UFC in a good spot regardless of everything that I just said? Or do you think that this is the beginning of a downward trend that the Paramount Plus deal kind of kickstarts as well? So let me know your thoughts down below. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video, and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.